So this kind of leads into the next question, and this is interesting to me. How often are you reviewed, and when you go through that review, what do you expect to hear from your manager's supervisor?
As far as an official review, we're reviewed officially every quarter with a sit-down review. However, because I have such a direct line of communication with both of my supervisors, I get reviewed on a daily basis. And I prefer that. If there's something that I've done that didn't go the way we expected, I want to know about it, because otherwise how can I fix it if I don't know? If there's something that we've done that's working really great, again, knowing that helps you, keep the momentum there and achieve the goal at the end of the day. So, like I said, it's not an official review on a daily basis, but it's just more of one of those things. Again, it's that line of open communication where you can have candid conversations and just be honest within your communication about, your performance and the outcome at the end of the day.
Yeah, I have a how not to do it scenario for you. Not from when I was a manager, but so I just hit we just had our annual reviews, and my manager emailed and you fill it out online and it's the whole deal. And my manager emailed my review to me after he filled in his comments. And that was it. And so I called him and I said, are we gonna sit down and talk about this? And he said, and he's a new manager, and he said to me, no, I was told that if you, and I think this isn't not the company standard because I don't want to put down my company, but I think he just misunderstood, but he said, if you need some help or improvement, we'll sit down and talk about it. If you're okay, we're not gonna have a one-on-one. And I thought that was just ludicrous. He said, but if you want to go talk about it, I'll take you out for lunch. And I said, no, I'm good, thanks. But really your employee, if you have direct reports, they crave your feedback, good, bad, or indifferent. They've got to know how they're doing. And as women, we need to be validated, right? Especially when we're working hard, we're outworking our peers a lot of times and things like that. We need that, and the daily feedback is wonderful, but even annually, geez, sit down and tell me what I'm doing right and where I need to grow. You can't just agree with my comments, because I need feedback. I need to be able to improve. I need some mentoring too. So I think that, if you do have direct reports, especially if they're in the millennial generation, they need that. They need that motivation. They need that mentoring. And so don't miss that as an opportunity really to speak back into what they're doing. It's really important.
Are you ever asked what your aspirations are during those reviews at any time?
I am in mine, and I definitely speak up and make it very clear as to what my aspirations are. But I think if you don't communicate that, then it's going to be harder for you to grow within your organization and for your supervision to know that that's something you want. Unfortunately, not everyone wants to grow. Some people are just complacent and they're fine with that, just coming in every day and doing their tasks and leaving at the end of the day. But yes, we're asked our aspirations, and I make it known within my organization.
I had a review once, not too long ago, my last company. My boss asked me where I saw myself in 5 years, and I told him in your office. And I was in less than 5 years through a series of circumstances. But there's nothing wrong with setting the bar very high for yourself. And to let your boss know, I want you to teach me what you know so that you can pull me up with you. If he's going to be there in 5 years, okay, maybe you're not going to learn a whole lot, or she. But you know what? Let them pull you up with them and take the opportunity to learn and be ambitious. I think sometimes we kind of want to rein that in a little bit so we don't look too brash we should definitely make those ambitions known, even if they don't ask.
And a good boss will help you get
Yes,
there.
they sure will.
Melissa, managing the millennials, how would you go about it?
So I have 2 millennials on my team.
Could you talk a little closer to your mic?
I can,
Thank you.
absolutely.
Thank you. That's good.
So the biggest thing with millennials is the feedback. So not only good, we just talked about that, good and bad, and then often. So making sure you're getting a lot of feedback. The other thing is identifying the skills that if they have high aspirations or even maybe that next job, like how do I get there? We were just talking about this at lunch. understanding, okay, I need these competencies or these skills to be in this position, or maybe it's a position 5-10 years down the road. So instead of saying, hey, I think you need to be in that position 2 to 3 years, because that's going to discourage a millennial. Helping them understand this is what I need to do, and then putting a robust development plan together with them. And then teach them. They want to learn. So the more you can teach them, the more they're going to learn, the better they're going to be.
I manage millennials at home every day, and it's really challenging because my mom's a baby boomer. I grew up, spent a lot of time with my grandparents, and my work ethic is vastly different from my children, who I've been raising for, since they were born. Their attention spans are very short. Everything is designed, for instant gratification, right? So understanding that just because they don't do it your way doesn't make their way wrong. It's just different. And, I think that's really good, because sometimes we see millennials do things that aren't, the way they're doing it isn't the way that we would do it. It's, I look at my kids all the time, like, why the heck do you do that way? But it works for them at the end. The end result is acceptable. So, and sometimes it's even better than what I personally would have done or how I would have done it. So I think, and taking the time to give them space to grow, and also maybe learning from what they're doing, because if you stay stuck where you are, you're never going to actually grow. So you really have to, learn and innovate. And millennials are very good for that.
And give them some big stretch goals. I mean, if you're saying, instead of saying that, hey, stay in that role 2 to 3 years, say, hey, go grow market share by X%, or grow this account or something. Give them some big goals, and you'll be surprised at what will happen.
Great, thank you. Amanda, what are your views on working from home versus working in your office?
I think it really probably depends on the individual. I think somebody who's self-driven can definitely weigh it the right way and get it to work. Some people do need to be in the office, so it really depends on the individual. I think allowing someone to make that choice is going to help them know that you believe in them and they don't want to fail you. So I think that flexible hours is definitely something that is of the future. I mean, with technology these days, we can do so much from our homes, from when we are away, from the hotel room. I think just giving that as an option, definitely not for everybody, but I do think that if somebody has proven themselves and that is something that they request of you, that trial run, see if it'll work. If it doesn't, then bring them back in and say, hey, we just need you in the office more. But it's there. It can be done. And I think that they're going to respect you more and probably work harder, because they're not going to want that to get taken away. So those are my thoughts on that.
So is it really square these days to be in an office, 8 to 5?
I personally prefer working from the office. For me, it's a matter of convenience. I feel a little bit more effective when I'm in the office, partly due to the technology that's available in an office versus available at home. In fact, the group of ladies I was sitting with at lunch, we were talking about this actual topic. And to give you an example, I have a scanner and different equipment at my home office that I use on the weekends. But if I have to scan something to someone, I have to do it one page at a time. And from a convenience standpoint, it's not very good. But I think it's a mixed bag. I think it's everyone is different as far as their own personal style and how they work. I do think, though, if it's something you're going to offer, it needs to be consistent. Meaning, I think some employees would be a little disgruntled if certain people were allowed to work from home and certain other people weren't. So I think if it is something that you choose, from your personal standpoint to offer within your company, it just needs to be consistent across the board for everyone.
I was going to say, with contractor business, you don't have they don't work 8 to 5. Mm-hmm. My first call yesterday morning was at 6:15. And I think, I've had nights where a guy will call me at 6:55, knowing our cutoff is 7 o'clock for a next day delivery, and say, Tara, can you put this order in for me? Or it's 10 o'clock at night and our reps are still sending quotes out to us and it's dinging on my phone. I don't, at least in my business, my world, 8 to 5, That's, the inside guys might work that shift, but a lot of us, I think, have to be available. And especially if you're in manufacturing, I know this from my last job, you know, your customers are not on the same time zone as you. So you may be in California dealing with somebody on the East Coast, so you're up at 5 o'clock in the morning, or, you know, something like that. So, and I think the flexibility of working from home, for me, I answer emails until 8:30, 9 o'clock to miss Denver traffic because I'm commuting, and then I go make my sales calls and things like that. So working from home does give you the flexibility, and a lot of times you can be more productive that way too.
Yeah, it's one of those things that, you know, the representation, you think about the hours we need to cover these days versus back in the day possibly. You know, we're really covering at least a 12-hour day, if not a 15-hour day with our customers. So you think about what we need to do to be able to be flexible with our hours and with everybody, and have everyone on the team and the whole company understand that this flexibility is so important now in order for us to grow our businesses. We really have to hang our hat on how are we going to be there all the time and have the right people available for when the contractors are calling us, when our customers are calling us. So thank you for that. I think it's an interesting topic, at least in our company it is. So thank you for that. All right, Stephanie. Oh, maybe we went through that one. Here's one. What's more important for your resume? How long you work for an employer, or how many companies you say you have worked for?
That's a tough one, but I think I would say your tenure within one certain organization. Again, it depends, you know, on how long someone is at these companies as well. But I think tenure shows a commitment to an organization. I think that if you can show that you've been with one company and grown within that, but of course that's not to say that if you've worked at multiple companies that's a bad thing either. I mean, again, it's just one of those things that's going to go down to the individual themselves and what were their reasonings for going from company to company. But from a pure standpoint, I think if someone just glances at a resume, that sometimes seeing multiple companies on a resume can be a turnoff at times, just because it may show the term known as job hopping. But again, I can't really place judgment on an individual resume without knowing the backstory. But from an overall standpoint, I would say probably tenure is more important within one organization.
And I agree 100% with her. It really depends on the situation. But let's say somebody has been at an organization for 20 years. That's what they know, that's what their skill is, so how
Will that translate over?
Right. So what else have they done? What other organizations have they been a part of? What else have they done to make themselves grow is what I would look at if they were coming to me and had been only at one place for that long.
You know, Melissa hit on a really good point earlier, and I think this is the difference between, you know, the baby boomer generation, for example, and the millennials, is that if you tell a millennial, as she said, you know, you have to stay you should stay in this job or this position or whatever for 2 to 3 years, that is discouraging for a millennial. It's definitely a paradigm shift from, you know, looking at a resume. I was a hiring manager before, and you know, the HR lady said, "Oh no, they've been at 6 companies in the last 10 years. Don't even bother talking to them," without understanding why. You absolutely can't. But to a millennial, staying in the same job or with the same company for 10 years might feel like prison, and the opportunities for them are going to come fast and furious, and they're going to spend time, they're going to get what they want out of that, and they're going to move to the next thing, and they'll contribute along the way. But I think that that's definitely moving toward a more, you know, shorter tenure at companies in their jobs or in that particular role in a company. And I think as time goes on, we're going to see that actually people don't stay in jobs for 20 or 50 years. You don't give those big service awards any longer because people are moving around so much more.
And they like to be continuously being challenged.
Yeah,
Yep.
absolutely.
I also think the education you pick up along the way is invaluable. So while you may not see a tenured person coming in all the time, finding out where they've been and what type of education have they picked up along the way is very interesting. I had dinner last week Wednesday with a friend of mine, and she has been in she is a certified human resources manager. And I wanted to pick her brain on a few things and find out she would think about some things that are going on in our company. And one of the things she said, and she's 34, I think, and she said, you know, I feel kind of bad about my resume right now because I was at this one company for, I think she said 4 years, but they closed their doors. And so now I go to the next company, and I'm there at this next company, and she goes, that one, I just didn't get their belief system. I just didn't get it. It just didn't work. And so I left that company. So she said, now I'm on my third company, and I'm not so sure about this company, but I'm a little afraid to leave because my resume is going to look like I'm not one to stick it out and figure it out, you know. So she's going back and forth with that, and you certainly can understand that, but she's, you know, very well educated in her field. She just wants to be sure she's leading herself to a career that's going to make a difference in her life. You know, she's not quite there yet, but she's still young. She doesn't have any children yet, so she has some time on her hands. But that was interesting to me because I know when we look through our resumes too, we're like, oh, how long have you been there? How long have you been there? First thing that hits your head. And, you know, it's not necessarily the way to think, you know, so I'm learning too as we go along.